21:23 hours, the 6th of September 2025. Over the smoke-stained skies of Donetsk, a single Su-24M carves its way through the night, its silhouette concealed beneath layers of electronic haze projected by Ukrainian EW units. Deep inside its bay rest two Storm Shadow cruise missiles, massive, precision-guided weapons, each capable of ripping through reinforced structures with a broach warhead designed for hardened targets. Far below, the sprawling ruins of Donetsk glow faintly under scattered searchlights, where Russian air defense radars sweep endlessly, hunting for threats. They are unaware that the most critical minutes of their command network are about to begin. This is not a routine strike, it is a calculated gambit to sever the head of Russia's regional command by eliminating two hardened HQs, one buried within the Topaz factory, the other nestled in the industrial fortress of the metallurgical plant. The fate of Donetsk's battlefront hinges on what happens next. For months, the battle for Donetsk had been a grinding war of attrition. Russia's 41 Combined Arms Army and the 20th Guards Combined Arms Army entrenched across the region, layering S-300 and S-400 belts with Panzer S-1 and Tor M2 shields, all cued by a Beriev A-50U AWACS orbiting deep in the rear. Two hardened command posts, one tucked into the Topaz factory, another inside the metallurgical plant, functioned as fused nerve centers, synchronizing artillery, armor, and air defense sectors with ruthless efficiency. If those hubs endured, every Ukrainian thrust would break on a wall of radar and fire. Ukraine's answer was patient, systemic, and joint. Neptune R land attack missiles were paired to Storm Shadow strikes to exploit seams opened by electronic warfare. Shark reconnaissance UAV mapped emitters and patrol rhythms. UJ-22 Beavers and Ram-2 drones swarmed ahead as decoys and finishers, cluttering screens with phantom tracks while masking the real approach vectors. The Hortitsia MEW complex pulsed and probed, jamming links, bending timing, and carving narrow corridors of silence where the strike package could breathe. The objective was audacious but simple: cut the head, numb the limbs. Neutralize both HQ and the Russian counterattack machine would seize up fuel and ammunition convoys, delayed artillery fires, desynchronized, air defense coverage riddled with blind spots. Success would flip the tempo on the Eastern Front and hand Ukraine the initiative for the first time in months. Failure would invite a punishing riposte under the A-50U unblinking gaze. As the clock ticked toward launch, choose your read of the duel. If Ukraine's gambit breaks the shield, press 1. If Moscow's network holds, press 9. The strike began with a whisper, not a roar. At 21:23, the Su-24M leveled out over central Ukraine, releasing two Storm Shadows. The missiles dropped low, wings unfolding as engines lit, skimming treetops on programmed routes mapped by Shark UAV. Simultaneously, three Neptune R land attack missiles ignited from hidden launchers, arcing eastward on paths deconflicted with the Storm Shadows. Each missile was a pawn in a larger game, drawing Russian operators in different sectors, forcing radars to search in too many directions at once. Above the front line, the skies came alive with deception. Swarms of UJ-22 Beavers and Ram-2 loitered forward, darting into detection zones, transmitting erratic signatures. Russian radars lit up, tracking dozens of targets that did not exist. Panzer batteries spun wildly, firing bursts at blips that vanished. The Tor M2, disciplined but pressured, engaged multiple drones, expending missiles at an unsustainable rate. Each intercept saturated comms, networks with chatter, resupply calls, and false confirmations. Meanwhile, Hortitsia M pulsed invisibly, cutting into command frequencies, fuzzing handoffs between S-300 and S-400 batteries. For intervals, the Russian air defense umbrella fractured sectors went blind, handovers failed, operators argued over ghost contacts. In the AWACS cabin of the A-50U, radar operators saw chaos, cluttered returns, inconsistent tracks, gaps in coverage where none should exist. Then came the first breakthrough. One Neptune R skimmed so low it disappeared beneath the radar horizon until seconds before impact. A Russian battery tried to engage, but misfired. Its radar jammed at the critical moment. The missile struck a logistics hub near Donetsk, detonating fuel tankers and sending a column of flames skyward. The distraction was crippling. Operators scrambled to confirm the hit, unaware the storm shadows were already minutes from their true targets. The Russians fought for coherence, but every move played into Ukraine's design. Each interceptor launched, each radar switched modes, only tightened the net of confusion. The decisive blow was inbound, masked beneath layers of noise and fire. The shock of the Neptune R strike rippled across Russian channels. Dispatchers shouted, demanding reports, while armored columns stalled as burning depots cut supply. Yet even in chaos, the Russian system strained to recover. S-300 crews reoriented, overlapping coverage to plug holes. A Pantsir battery redeployed to shield the metallurgical plant, radars whirring to catch low intruders. Orders from Topaz HQ, unaware it was already targeted, called for retaliation. Ukraine anticipated the scramble. Hortitsia M shifted frequencies, striking where operators had just reset, widening the fog. Another wave of drones pressed forward, not to strike, but to bait. Panzer gunners fired until barrels glowed, downing UJ-22, yet missing missiles slipping past. Crashed drones still transmitted, prolonging the illusion. Each radar lock delayed real threats by seconds. But each intercept consumed ammo needed later. At 21:28, the storm shadows closed within 50 kilometers. Their terrain-following systems guided them under radar arcs, weaving through valleys and clutter. Electronic lures mimicked altitude hops, forcing manual overrides. One Russian Tor glimpsed a missile and fired, but interceptors veered wide, lured by decoys flooding the channel. A frantic call to the A-50U reported multiple inbound, but the scope was cluttered, officers unable to distinguish strikes from ghosts. Inside the metallurgical plant HQ, officers huddled around screens, barking into phones as lights flickered from nearby impacts. Outside, trucks were shoved under nets, crews shouting over blasts. In Donetsk, civilians dived into basements as transformers blew. The grid flickered like a failing heartbeat, then steadied on emergency loops. Every minute, tension ratcheted higher. Would the storm shadows find their mark, or would Russia's shield finally bite back? Both sides were stretched to breaking Ukraine, risking rare precision weapons. Russia burning interceptors faster than they could replace. The balance teetered on seconds and signals. Victory or disaster hidden in the fog of war. So tell me, if you think Ukraine's missiles will carve through, press 1. If you believe Russia's defenses will harden in time, press 9. At 21:30, just as Russian defenses braced for the storm shadows, an unexpected silence fell across the spectrum. For 20 critical seconds, the A-50U lost contact with several batteries. Operators stared at blank channels, convinced their sets had failed. In reality, Hortitsia M had executed its most ambitious deception, yet masking the inbound missiles entirely and projecting ghost signatures dozens of kilometers away. Russian commanders diverted interceptors toward phantom tracks, stripping protection from the true approach corridors. Then, in a move no one had anticipated, one storm shadow abruptly altered course mid-flight. Its terrain-matching software had been updated with last-minute reconnaissance, steering it toward the Topaz factory HQ by a vector Russian radars had not covered. The second missile pressed on toward the metallurgical plant. Both were now seconds from impact, invisible to most of the network. Inside Donetsk, confusion spiraled. Commanders at the metallurgical plant barked contradictory orders. Some demanded evacuation, others insisted on holding positions. At the Topaz complex, staff believed the earlier Neptune R strike had been the main blow, unaware the true hammer was still falling. Russian gunners fired blindly at empty skies, convinced they were under massed attack. And yet, even as Ukraine's strike neared its climax, risk remained. A lone Tor battery, operating on an isolated frequency, managed to catch a glimpse of one missile. With its last ready interceptor, the crew prepared to fire, hoping to salvage Russia's command network at the final moment. Would it succeed, or arrive one heartbeat too late? At 21:31, the duel reached its breaking point. The Tor battery, its crew drenched in sweat, locked onto a blip weaving across their scope. With seconds to spare, they launched their final interceptor, a streak of light tearing upward. The missile screamed into the night sky, yet its seeker failed to find the real storm shadow, fooled by false echoes painted by EW jammers. The interceptor arced away and detonated harmlessly. A heartbeat later, the first storm shadow descended into Donetsk's industrial zone. With precision, it slammed through the reinforced roof of the Topaz factory. The Broach warhead pierced concrete and steel before detonating deep inside, shredding command rooms, severing fiber links, and silencing the nerve center coordinating half the city's defenses. Shockwaves rippled outward, rattling windows miles away. For those inside, there was no time to react. The hub simply ceased to exist. The second missile roared on, racing over flickering grids and burning tanks. Russian operators scrambled, but too late. It struck the metallurgical plant HQ, punching through the upper floors and igniting a firestorm. Maps, terminals, and officers vanished in a single blast. Survivors stumbled into smoke-filled corridors, cut off from higher command. On the horizon, an orange plume rolled over the river, punctuated by secondary detonations and the stutter of dying generators. In less than 60 seconds, both HQs anchoring Russian defenses in Donetsk had been obliterated. The command web collapsed into silence. Artillery batteries fired sporadically. Armor halted mid-route. Air defense units awaited orders that never came. The once cohesive machine fractured into isolated cells, blind to the bigger picture. For Ukraine, the moment was monumental. Years of sacrifice had delivered a decisive blow. For the first time in months, the initiative swung eastward. Yet this was only the beginning. Russia would respond, and the cost of escalation was unpredictable. Crews rechecked fuel, retasked drones, and braced for a counterpunch. 2 HQs gone, one strike rewriting the battle. So tell me if you believe Ukraine has shifted the balance for good. Drop 1 inch the comments. If Russia will absorb the blow and strike back harder, drop 9 and subscribe to follow the next move. By dawn, the fires over Donetsk still burned, thick plumes curling above the ruined factory blocks. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones loitered quietly, feeding back images of shattered HQ, twisted steel, and convoys stalled along cratered roads. The once coordinated Russian defenses had dissolved into fragments. Artillery batteries firing without correction, armored battalions immobilized by fuel shortages, and air defense crews waiting for commands that would never come. For Ukraine, the operation marked a turning point. The destruction of the Topaz and metallurgical plant HQ was more than a tactical strike. It was a direct blow to Russia's ability to orchestrate battle in the region. Soldiers on the front line, long accustomed to attritional stalemates, now felt momentum shift. Radios buzzed with cautious optimism as reports confirmed the scale of disruption. Yet commanders tempered celebrations, reminding their troops that Russia's capacity for retaliation was far from broken. In Moscow's war rooms, the strike was met with disbelief, then fury. Analysts pored over radar logs, searching for the moment deception became reality. Fingers pointed at electronic warfare vulnerabilities, at gaps in radar coverage, at commanders who hesitated. Already, orders were drafted for reinforcements, for more aggressive air patrols, for counterstrikes designed to remind Ukraine that one victory would not end the war. The question was no longer whether Russia would respond, but how, and at what scale. Across Donetsk, civilians sifted through rubble, powerless witnesses to the clash of doctrines. Some saw hope in Ukraine's precision and daring. Others feared escalation would bring even heavier bombardments. The war had not ended. It had only entered a new, more volatile phase. And so the battlefield stood at a crossroads. One side reeling, the other emboldened, both bracing for the next move in a struggle without pause. What do you think? Has Ukraine's strike truly changed the war? Press 1. Or will Russia's inevitable counterblow swing the balance back? Press 9. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter in this unfolding conflict.